Welcome to today's webinar with Nick Clark on PlanningCLUB Power Principles. We had a well-attended webinar on PlanningCLUB success stories with Susan Thompson and Mike McKay just a few weeks ago. So email me if you want to get that replay link so that you can listen to it, or you can also find the replay on the wiki. Nick Clark has also posted it there. So what is PlanningCLUB? PlanningCLUB is a profit-making program that Nick Clark manages and created, and he has all the available tools for promoting and facilitating this two-day workshop in the Wiki's coaching section. And today, Nick will dive into how you can tap into the power principles for PlanningCLUB to grow your coaching business. Please feel free to type in any questions you have into the chat window, and Nick will plan to get to those questions and answer them for all at the end of this webinar. Now, without further delay, I'd like to pass you on to our host, Nick Clark.
Hey everybody, thanks for attending. I'm just going to share my screen with you. Okay, sweet. What I have on screen firstly is the access portal. So you see up here you've got yourplanningclub.com/access, and the password to the system is access as well. But in here, and I'll transfer it over to the action stuff over the next few weeks. But in here you've got some training videos for the system, some video testimonials, some GAV. You'll see some 60-second commercials, a whole lot of information around attendee checklists and comprehensive questionnaire and workbook, PowerPoint presentations, sample plans, general marketing material, and go all the way through down to the bottom. There's a whole range of information you can get through here. There's also the previous webinar. And I've uploaded already the webinar, the PowerPoint presentation I'll be using today. So you can gain access to that pretty well straight away. I'll just start my PowerPoint presentation. Bear with me for a second. Okay, so if we could, I'm just going to do a couple of like setup slides. So if a business owner could tell the future, if a business owner could see what's going to happen to their business within 5 years' time, we hear a lot of these conversations going around in the world about small business when they first start. The first 3 years will kill off 60% of them, and if the first 3 years doesn't get you, then the remaining 2 years will then wipe out the other 90%. So the key is here that if you could look into the future about your small business and then change that future, what would you do? Would you rechange some of your pricing? Did you price your products and services correctly? Did you make money? So what if you could see the problems before they started? Now the thing with the planning system, it actually allows the business owner to look into the future and see their business, see whether it's going to make any money, see whether it's going to have any cash, what their closing cash position is for each year. Did they make a profit? Did the business go up in value? And if it doesn't do the things that they would want it to do, they can make changes to the model and change their future outcomes. It really is quite a powerful system in allowing a business owner to look at the future and make those changes. So let's look at dynamic planning. We've heard a lot of stories about, business plans fine, but when I do one, then I stick it in the bottom drawer, or I've done a plan, what do I do with it now? So let's look at a dynamic planning system. So the business planning system allows you to define what business you're in. It gives you real clarity around what products you sell, and so if you look at that, it defines your business. The next one is you get to shape your business, you get to shape your future by looking at what pricing, how the pricing is going to affect things, how your volume is going to affect whether you've got any cash at the bank, and a whole range of options where you get to then shape and formulate your business for the future. Once you've looked at defining what you sell, who you're selling it to, so forth, and then you get to shape what pricing and volume we're going to use, then we get into a little bit of reality. So we look at, so what is the reality of the situation based on, let's put in some costs now and look at electricity, rent, and just the normal running costs. Now based on that situation, then we can go back and say, okay, with those costs, does my pricing and volume work? What I'm selling, does that work? And if it doesn't, we get to go back and change some of these matrices within our plan and enable us to then reshape our future. So we're working on the ideal scene for our business. We're working on the ideal scene, clients working on their ideal scene. So what is the ideal scene? What is the ideal amount of money I'm going to make? What is this business? How can it be set up? And from that, then once the ideal scene has been created and the model is solid, then we get to go through and look at what actions do we need to take to bring that into reality? What strategies can we use to work that business model into becoming reality? So the system is quite dynamic. You can go into the system with a client. The client can look at, say, every 90 days, if we review our numbers, what happens if we've had a percentage decrease in some of our sales area, what happens if we've had a percentage increase, what happens if I get, as a business owner, I get a rush of blood to the head and decide I'm going to reduce all my prices by 5% and I'm going to increase my volume 10%. What happens to the cash in my business? Is it profitable? Does it go up in value? So forth. So we can really play a whole range of different things. So looking at this, what are the 5 different ways that we can build revenue using the tools available through PlanningCLUB, using the tools available that are on that online access site, and using the model itself. So we've got a TwoDay. I'll go through each one of these in more detail, but we've got and go back a little bit. This PowerPoint presentation is also available on that site that I showed you before. We have a 2-day workshop. So that 2-day workshop is the PlanningCLUB standard 2-day workshop. We also have what we call a client retreat, where you can take the clients away and over the course of some days really get to model their business and get some real BFOs going. We've got a hybrid coaching model, which is a combination of coaching and planning. And we've also got just simply create a client's plan for them and then giving the client direct access. So there's 5 core ways you can build money or go out into the marketplace and present another conversation to the marketplace. And by having these conversations, you get to build revenue for your coaching business. So let's just go into each one of these now. So let's look at 2-day PlanningCLUB. The 2-day PlanningCLUB is, it can be a back-to-back 2 days. It can be a split 2 days, so it can be, say we'll do 1 day on a Friday of 1 week, then 1 day on a Friday in 2 weeks' time. It can be a Saturday. It's up to you which day. However, you can do straight back-to-back, or you can do it over the course of a split scenario. So we're looking at the left-hand side. What is it? It's 2 days. You can have 3 to 20 people. Now the possibilities of more than 20, so 3 to 20 businesses. The possibility of more than 20 is there, but it depends on the internet connections in the room. So for around about every, say, 5 businesses in the room, another wireless router in the room would support multiple access. So you could, in theory, go up to hundreds of people, but let's work somewhere between 3 to 20. The reason why 3 is a minimum is because it allows for some form of interaction. Also, there's obviously some revenue there, and then building up from there. You have a post, so you've got a 2-day, you've got some people in the room, you then have a post-workshop sales meeting, and how the post-workshop sales meeting works is that after the workshop and the plan's produced, then there's a meeting with the client to discuss with them what's their next step. Pricing out in the marketplace has been ranging between $2,500 per business up to $4,500 per business. Now we believe that the $4,500 per business can go up. It's a matter of over time. It's a little bit like when we first started doing coaching way back. Coaching was at $1,000 per month, and there are plenty of coaches out there now that are doing way more than $1,000 per month per client. So this will grow over time. There's a draft plan that's produced. The system does all this for you. There's a final plan produced. It does it all for you. So this is a workshop scenario. Revenues, as we've discussed already, if you were to do 5 businesses in the room, that would be a revenue range of somewhere between $12,500 and $22,500. 10 businesses, 25 to 45, and 15 businesses, 37 to 67. So there's revenue there to be gained depending on your conversation. So the process is pre-info sent to the clients, and again, all the pre-information that needs to be sent to the client is on the system. You've got day 1 as a full day, day 2 as a full day, and there's PowerPoint presentations for that. Now, during the course of the workshop over the 2 days, the idea is that there's a lot of BFO moments. There's conversations around coaching to be able to coach the clients in the future, and there's after the workshop, there's some homework that the client does. There's where the coach reviews the plans online, has a look through those, and creates a draft plan for the client. Again, all available through the system. If you look at the resources, there's seminars, there's client training videos, there's PowerPoint presentations, there's an online portal, there's business planning, strategy plans, and ongoing access. Just on the strategy plan side of things and the business plan, the system that the client has access to and you have access to will produce a full business plan, including all the financials. The client doesn't need to know how to build financials, neither do you. But there's also included a strategy document that's segmented by team member. So when the client puts in their team members, it'll segment that document. So, okay, Mary, here's all your strategies. John, here's the strategies you are going to do. And it means that the strategies can be progressed through or managed through by the owner of the business or by the coach. Okay, what's the client retreat? So looking at the client retreat utilizes the 2-day PowerPoint. However, the client retreat can be done either over 2 days or 3 days. Now, the idea here is that it's a very select group of business owners. Now, normally it can be one business in the over the course of that 2-3 days. It can be 2, 3, 4, or 5 businesses over the course of that 3 days. But it's a VIP style event, and I've run these sorts of events before with larger groups. Brad's also done not this particular style event, but Brad's done many events where he's been 3, 4 days, 5 days with business owners, and being able to charge a good fee for that. So what are the revenues available here? If you're looking at the lower price of $8,900 per business in the room, you've got $8,900 per business. You've got between 8 and 9, 13, 7. If you're in the one business in the room, then you've got some fees here. You've got 3 businesses in the room, so it's 37 to 67. 10 businesses in the room, about 125 to 225. The process: pre-info sent to the client, access given to the clients. Day 1 is 5 hours. Day 2 is a full day and a dinner with the clients, and day 3 is a full day. So you're selling again. You're selling during the workshop. You've got client homework that's given to them after, and again, at the end of the whole scenario, they get a full, robust plan. They get access to the system for 12 months. They get to do what-if scenarios. They get to test their assumptions, and they get to come back into that on a regular basis and see what changes in their business. Resources, all on the system, all on the site. So you've got intro seminars. So there's like a 6-step, but it's introduction around PlanningCLUB or around the planning system. And what happens is the client gets an intro over the course of 2 or 3 hours as a sales marketing tool. There's training videos, PowerPoints, and a whole range of stuff. We've also got a hybrid coaching model. The hybrid coaching model, you've got a number of sessions. So I'll just go through the quick overview. It's somewhere between 5,570 and 7,900 per business. It's only over a short cycle, so 3 months. And the reason why it's over 3 months, if we have a look down the process side of things here, you'll see that there's initial sales meeting. There's 8 coaching / planning sessions. At the end, there's a draft plan session with the client, and then a final session. So how does it work, the hybrid coaching model? You've got 8 sessions cover the setup and general business setup, general information about the business. You've got who the target market is, the direction, mission, and USP. So you've got one session there. You've got direct mission. You've got sales, expenses, SWOT, modeling, what if, cleanup. So you've got a whole range of sessions here with regards to what are we going to do during those sessions. The draft plan is produced and sent to the client for their review, and then there's a final plan meeting and a sales meeting with the client to get involved in that. So there's a good way for you to get interact with the clients to really work in a combination of coach, homework to do their planning, getting some BFO moments for them, and they get a robust plan at the end of the day. Resources are all on the online system. Next one. And I'll be answering questions at the end. I've got a list of questions so I can go through, and I'll just be answering those. Client planning. So first of all, we had the 2-day, then we had the client style of retreat. Now we've had the hybrid coaching model. Now we've got the client planning session. So this is where the client simply wants a plan. They don't really want to go through a coaching scenario. They've got some core needs. Required here. The core needs are: I've got to go to get an investor, or I've got to go to the bank, or I've got to, the management wants to do a buyout, or I want to sell the business relatively quickly. This is a core scenario that the client needs. So what are the session scenarios? So if we look at this, we've got it's 2 weeks. It's for a single business, and generally it's over 3 sessions. And the fee for that is 5570 through to 12,900. Now there has been in the past the ability to charge more than 12,900, but if we start at a reasonable rate, that gives you an idea of the revenue that can be gained here. The process is obviously initial sales meeting. There's 2 sessions with the client, a draft plan session, and a final session with the client. So how does it work? So there is an initial meeting where the coach uses a questionnaire to gather information. The questionnaire is online. You'll see that underneath some of the documentation. So the coach sits in front of a client, uses a questionnaire, asks the client a whole range of questions, writes down the information, and then the coach goes back to their office, and or the team will enter the information into the portal. So the coach or team will enter that raw data into the portal. There's a further phone meeting just to clarify different points, add to different scenarios with regards to the planning system, and then the coach finalizes the plan and then meets with the client to get that the plan to the client. Again, resources, intro seminar, brochures, flyers. There's a questionnaire that where you can ask the client all the questions needed to access the portal and fill that information in. There's business plan strategy, ongoing access, and also the potential for the client to review that over every 90 days and what have you. So this is a really easy way for a client to be able to get their plan done, and for the coach to charge some additional fees. There's about 13 hours of coaching time in there, so if you look at 13 hours, just to divide that into there, that'll give you the idea. Again, PowerPoint is available online, and you can make all these, check all these calculations out. Next one. We've had some of the coaches just do a straight client planning where the client gets access to the portal. Coach doesn't have a huge amount to do with the client interactional style of thing. The reason why this one is available is the client has enough ability to be able to do their plan. They don't really want any interaction with the coach. They just want to get into it and create their plan. Charges have been anywhere between $1,200 and $1,700 per business. You can effectively or potentially sell coaching. The reason how you can do that is because you are getting to interact slightly with the the client. It's a possibility. About 2 hours worth of coaching time. There's some interaction with the client. There's some need to go and check some stuff, and there's also a need to then use a system to produce the draft plan. Process. Generally, there's a discussion with that person. We call that a sales meeting. The client wants to access the system on their own. You may need to review their plan prior to printing it, which is where some of this time is spent. Resources, online planning portal, business plan, strategy plan. The portal is open for the client for 12 months, and they get to review their figures, redo strategies over the course of their time. Okay, getting towards the end, I'll start answering questions. So, the overview of the financial benefits for the client. So this is if you look at step 1 or area 1, this is dynamic business plan. Because it's not produced in multiple of areas, so for example, it's not a Word document, they don't have to look at spreadsheets, it's not a massive scenario to update their plan. So for example, they may have had some changes in their business, they go into the online system, they make a couple of changes, it repopulates, it recalculates all of the P&L, recalculates all their balance sheet, all their financial figures, and with a click of a button, it'll produce a brand new plan. So the plan is dynamic. Online changes are simple. The strategy section can be used to delete strategies that have already been done, add new strategies that they then need to use over the course of the next 90 days. So there's a quarterly review process. The system allows for profit growth. So the sales, what profit growth? So we're testing sales assumptions. So what happens if I increase volume? What happens if I decrease volume? What happens if I bring a new product on board? What happens if I bring on a new business manager? So we can make assumptions and then test that and see whether the business is going to build a profit. We can change our gross margins, work on our net margins. Also, the system allows us to do a business value growth. As we're changing things, the system will calculate whether there's a cash flow growth improvement, a profit improvement, and also an equity or business value improvement as it goes through. It does all the calculations itself. The client and the coach do not need to know how to do all these scenarios. There's also then the bank balance growth. The key one for us is my bank balance going to grow over time? So by adjusting some days payable, days receivable, pricing changes and margin changes, as well as these things here, it will let you know whether there's any money in the bank at the end of the day. Okay, so that brings me to the end of my PowerPoint presentation. So I'll ask some questions and also
yeah. Our first question is from Jay McDowell, and he asks, is there experience on whether 2 consecutive or split works best?
Yes, there is. There are a number of coaches out there that are using a split 2 days, and they find that's been the best for them. Now that's best for the coaching business because it's enabled them to have a break in between. It's also enabled them to maybe get some of the slower clients to go back into the system and update some of their information and bring it up to speed for then the final second day. Some of the clients like to get it out of the way, so they like to do the 2 days in one straight bang hit. So for some clients it's a better experience if they do it over the 2 days. But if I was going to recommend a scenario, I would probably look at doing the split days because that way you can give the clients their homework of what they need to do.
Gotcha, very good. We have a question from Deepak. In the previous seminar, Susan Thomas mentioned about using business-rich slides as a setup for presentation for the 2-day workshop. What are those slides and how can we get those slides?
Okay. So what I'll just bring up the current PowerPoint presentation for the new system under this axis here. As I scroll down, we'll see that we've got the downloadables for PowerPoint for day 1 and downloadables for PowerPoint 2. Now, Susan, they were using the old planning system and they've just been upgraded to the new system. So I've asked her for her slides, and what I will do is I'll put underneath here over the next week or so, I'll put under here her PowerRich slide presentation. This one, both day 1 and day 2 here, they do have a whole range of action coach existing slides on everything from USP to BFO to isn't that interesting, and right people on the bus, teach a person to catch a fish. So there's already a whole lot of PowerPoint action slides in there. When you see the PowerPoint presentation, you'll see that, okay, this is pretty easy to understand. You will already know a good portion of the slides on there.
Great. Another question came in from Jay. 8 sessions. Are they weekly or 1 hour per?
Yeah, so what I do, generally when I've looked at I've done a calculation with the how a lot of people coach around the world, and it's kind of touted that it's a 1 hour coaching session. A lot of coaches might go to 1.5 hours with their normal coaching, especially if you add a little bit of prep time and what have you in there. So I'm using the same kind of scenario. It's going to be about 1 to 1.5 hours per session. Now, 8 sessions, so are they weekly? Well, that's going to depend on the client. So I'll just see if I can get back to that scenario for us. Bear with me. I'll just get this up on screen for us. Okay. So if we look at the free range 5570 to 790 for the hybrid over 8 sessions, what I'm going to say to you is that it depends. So do you do 8 sessions weekly? Yes, you can do, and it's going to depend on the client's cash flow. So if you look at a cash flow scenario, the client has to cash flow potentially $7,900 over 8 weeks if you're going to do weekly sessions. If you do a session every 2 weeks, then the client will cash flow that over 16 weeks, for example. If you do it monthly, then the client's going to cash flow it over 8 months. So when you're sitting with a potential client looking at what their cash potential scenario is, then you've got a range of options for you as the coach to go, okay, let's get this done. You can say, okay, there's 3 options for us. We can do this over 8 weeks, or we can do this over, potentially 4 months, and it's going to depend on your cash flow. And so that's what I would suggest with that. Up to you, whether it's 8 weeks, 16 weeks, 32, what have you.
Okay, great. Question from Lisa Walker. Are there marketing and process materials for all of the levels of product that you showed?
There is, if you go under here, there's marketing materials for pretty much everything that opens and closes. The only thing we haven't put together yet is for the, say, a client retreat, where we talk about other benefits for the client in the retreat. There's marketing materials with regards to what's covered and what they get out of it, but we haven't actually put together one called Client Retreat yet. Everything else is available.
Great. Another question from Ian. What would you recommend as the ideal time between sessions? You might have answered that already, but.
Yeah. So again, if it's the planning 2 days, then obviously at least a week if you're going to split it. Don't go any greater than 3 weeks if you're going to split, because momentum slows down too much. Part of the planning club is that during the course of those sessions, that the client's going to get engaged in you as a coach, and also engaged in the possibility for their business. If you leave it go too long between sessions, then that momentum slows down. With a client's 8-week process, if they're doing the the hybrid coaching model, then it's going to be up to you and them with regards to how they can cash flow those payments. If the cash flow is tight for them, then maybe it's 2 weeks between sessions. I wouldn't go any more than a month between sessions, because again they'll slow down too much. So see if you can keep it to no more than 3 weeks. And if you're going to do the clients where you create the plan itself, then I would allow, depends on their urgency. If they've got a plan that they need to urgently get to the bank within the next week, then you might be a few days between sessions. So it's really going to depend on which of the models you're going to use.
Okay, great. Another question came in from Matthew. Is there a facility for client to upload actual results so a client can compare actual performance versus the planned budget as they progress through the year?
There is no what did I put in last month or what have you. They can review quarterly, and the suggestion is to take a screenshot each quarter if they adjust those numbers. Most of it's going to be utilizing, did I do that strategy? If I did, then I can delete that strategy out, put a new strategy in. So the short of the answer is there's no upload at this stage.
Okay. Another question came in from Deepak. Do clients have access to the system beyond the working sessions with the coach? So in the 2-day workshop option, for example.
Yeah, the client has access to the system for 12 months. After the 12 months, they can go into a monthly scenario, and that's done in consultation with the coaching business. But the client has access to the system 24/7. They can make any changes they want at any time. The only thing the client can't do is print a brand new version. So for example, if the client goes in and makes a whole lot of changes and wants to have a new PDF document, the client has to be in contact with the coach to get that new PDF document. And the reason why we've done that is because we want to have the interaction between the coach and the client. So the coach gets to engage the client. If they're not a full-time coaching client yet, then the coach gets to engage and make a possible sale into coaching. If they are a full-time coaching client, then of course you want to know what the client's been up to. So again, it gives the ability to print. But it's 24/7 for 12 months, and client can use it, and you can use it as a modeling tool.
Great. Those are all the questions I see so far, Nick.
Great. So awesome. I've kept it to, I wanted to do this for about 30 minutes, which is great.
Yes.
Yep, good. What we'll do is we'll put this stuff up online. The PowerPoint is already available for you to go and download. And thank you for your time.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you, coaches, for attending. And I will be having the GoToWebinar system email you and everyone who has registered this replay link. If the link doesn't work for you, I've had many coaches say, oh, it's not working. Note that we will create a nice Vimeo link. I will email it out to everybody, and Nick will also post that onto his Planning Club site. All right? Thank you, Nick, again. Thank you, everyone,
thank you.
and make it a great day, all. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.